Hello Scorpio friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Scorpio May 2021 Astrology Must-Knows Horoscope Reports. We are stepping right into eclipse season this month. You might have started to see eclipse news and events starting to come in April, but now we're really in the hot spot of those radical changes, those trajectory shifts that make you go in a completely different direction than where you thought you were going even just a day prior. This is a crazy time of major goodbyes and major hellos, and we're going to talk lots about the energy of eclipse in this video. We are going to talk about other things as well, so I'm going to give you a quick outline of what the rest of the video is going to include, and then we'll get right to it. The first thing that we're going to talk about is what specifically the things that there are for Scorpios to celebrate this month. We're also going to talk about some specific things to watch out for. Along with those watch out fors, we're going to talk about how to make lemonade from the things to watch out for and some specific strategies for Scorpio. You may or may not know that besides being an astrologer for almost 20 years, I've also been a coach for that time. And for almost all of that time, I've also been a trainer of coaches and astrologers. And as such, I always bring my coaching to my astrology. I can't separate the two because I'm thinking that if anyone's trying to watch something like a horoscope, they're interested in having their lives be better and understanding what's going on. And so if I know stuff, I want to share it with you, and I definitely have some things to share. So we're going to talk about some Scorpio specific strategies to help you move along a positive evolutionary Scorpio trajectory, and then we're going to talk about understanding the eclipses and this particular cycle of Sagittarius and Gemini, when this happened before, when this cycle started, and what else to know about those. I'm going to show you in the chart, or not on the chart, but I'm going to tell you in the chart where you are specifically going to experience, basically what fields of experience are going to be highlighted for you at this time. And I'll point you towards resources that I've created to give you as much information as possible on how this energy might manifest for you at this time. Okay, so as usual, we're going to cover a lot of ground. I try to bring the beautiful complexity of astrology into my readings. That makes them a little bit longer sometimes, but we have a lot extra to cover this month. Okay, so the first things we're going to talk about are what to celebrate. And we've got a lot of things here. So the first thing to talk about is relationship opportunities. April, May, June of every year, Scorpios have their relationship sectors flooded with planets, with movements, with information, with activity, with events. So you'll see this at this time. Maybe you're traveling to see family, or they're traveling to see you. Traveling is definitely opening up. For Scorpios, are going to see a lot of information about key relationships and a lot of occurrences. And that could be for better or worse. That could be conflict or strife that has to be overcome. That could be and there will be this energy of being pulled in both directions. However, there are still wonderful opportunities to break old patterns within relationships and to create new wonderful patterns that are more fulfilling for everyone involved. We'll talk about some more of the relationship stuff and some things to watch out for, but I want to stay focused on the things to celebrate for right now. Included in the flooded relationship sectors are also possibilities for you to find important helpers. So I'm on this very big kick of trying to help people to find helpers instead of trying to do everything on their own. And sometimes it can be less expensive than you think, and what value you get for having other people help you might free you up to have even more money, even though it seems contradictory to spend money than you have less money. But sometimes having helpers can help you to get even more money. For instance, having a tax helper with all of the complicated tax things that are going on, or having somebody assist you with something with your business that could help make you bring more money in, things like that. So this is a time to really be thinking about what kind of support you need for your work, what kind of support you need for your business, what kind of support you want in your relationships, or even just in your house, finding the perfect plumber, things like that. So those energies are still very much in your face at this time, as they were in April. They will be in May. They will be lingering there in June as well. So something else to celebrate is that On May 11th, there is a new moon in Taurus. Now, while we're starting to, you know, some of the things that there are to celebrate are also things to watch out for because they could manifest either way, and this is one of those things. So having a new moon in the sign opposing yours can mean that there's a breakthrough involving something that was pulling you in two different directions. As the planets move through Taurus, they make a 180-degree angle to Scorpio planets. So you've been going through this in April, you're going through this in May. May 11th is this sort of, could be this breakthrough or something notable, either which way. And all Scorpios will be having a chance to feel that, but the closer you are to 21 degrees, and remember my reports are for you, whether you're watching for Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising, or other Scorpio placements that you watch for. So the closer to 21 degrees, because that's where that new moon will be, the more this will impact you. So we'll put 16 degrees to 26 degrees in the web, and the closer to 21 degrees within that range, the more impactful it might be for you. Now, if you're looking at from the birthday perspective, the days around November 11th will have the most notable effects from this, but we'll stretch back like November 6th through November 17th, and the closer to the 11th, the more impactful this new moon will be for you. Okay, so one other thing to celebrate for Scorpios this month is that, and specific for Scorpios, there are other things to celebrate in general, but this is Scorpio specific, is that Mars is continuing to move through Cancer. As I've been talking about, and I will continue always talking about, the elements, each of the elements, the water, air, earth, fire, they speak a language. And whenever we have a planet moving through the element that is the one that we have notable placements in, it speaks a language that we understand. It speaks a language of water, of emotion, of deep connection. And so Mars, which is not usually speaking that language because it's a fire energy, you know, it rules Aries, it's rambunctious, it's, you know, it's not usually speaking the language that matches with how you process information. But now it is. So from the end of April, all of May, and early June, Mars is going to take a tour through Cancer, and during that time, every single one of you will get a kiss from Mars. Mars kisses can come in the form of renewed ambition, renewed perseverance. If something has to be pulled through, it can be just ease in creation where you're not feeling like you're running up against a wall anymore, and you're feeling like, wow, okay, you're taking action and they're manifesting. They're manifesting into something tangible. It could also be emotional connection as far as what your work is. Sometimes we have to do work and we don't have an emotional connection to our work. And for Scorpios in general, that's kind of difficult because this energy of emotional connection is something that is always lurking in your field that wants to be a part of everything. So when the planet that rules physical energy, vitality, is in your sign, it also increases the odds that you might have boosts to your physical energy and vitality. So that's something else to celebrate. Now, there are some general things to celebrate that aren't Scorpio specific that I want to mention or remind you of. From the middle of March through the middle of May, we have this beautiful open period for launches, getting stuff done, taking important actions, moves, financial decisions, and anything big where planning and forward movement is optimal, where you want it to be optimal. So you still have the first half of May before we turn into the downslide going into Mercury retrograde in the second half of May. So that's definitely something to celebrate if you're trying to get stuff done and get stuff figured out. The clarity will likely be stronger at that time. But as the month moves on from the center point around May 16th, all the rest of May, all of June, the first few days of July are going to be back into this retrograde confusion. And to have an idea, just kind of remember what that had been like, the end of January and all of February and the first part of March, we were cast back into this confusion, not being able to make plans, things from the past taking precedence, not really being able to push anything forward. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just how it is. And if you know that it's coming, you won't try to align big pushes or launches or take on a bunch of projects in the time frame when everything is going to be changing. Plans are going to likely change. Things, relationships, agreements that had been set will likely be called into question in the second half of May and all of June and into early July. If you have to have clarity about something, you don't feel like you have enough time to pull something through in the first half of May, you're going to have another launching point in July and August and the first part of September. So, you can kind of assess, knowing that the energies are going to be turning inward and backward, if you want to hold up your project or your big decision, or if you're not sure about something, you might want to wait till the energy moves forward. And in July, you'll have lots of Cancer energy, which will be trining your placements, which will be, very supportive for you. So you don't have to rush if it's not feeling ready to do whatever it is. Okay, so we've been kind of gradually progressing into the things to watch out for here. And one of those things has to do with the remaining Taurus movements. We don't have a lot of Taurus energy this month, even though we think about April being a Taurus time. We don't have, May being a Taurus time, we don't have a lot of the Taurian energy lingering, because Mercury and Venus, which were also in Taurus in April and now in early May, will switch into Gemini early in May. All right, and the reason why this is relevant for you is because whenever planets are in Taurus, they're making oppositions to your placement, which is a 180-degree angle, which is a critical angle, which you feel by being pulled in two different directions. And no doubt, April and May will have you feeling like half of you is somewhere and half of you is somewhere else. Maybe you have to be away from your family. Maybe you are seeing certain family but are away from other family. Maybe your work is pulling you away from your family. There's this big, strong pull of things that you have to do, and people that need you or you want to be with them, and being divided that way. So this is something to watch out for in the way that these energies are still present in May, but they are starting to shift pretty early on, and then they get away from that opposition energy as the month goes on. So hopefully that will give you a reprieve, and you'll stop feeling like you're pulled so much. Then they'll move from Taurus into Gemini. Now, Gemini is not a particularly flowing energy for Scorpios either, but at least it's not in an opposition. So this brings more like awkwardness, more disconnect, more distractedness, flakiness, either on your part or somebody else's part. Scorpios tend to have a sense of loyalty, and sometimes that's a subjective definition of what loyalty means, but there's loyalty to something, and the Gemini energies can bring flakiness from other people. And so you might find that you're wanting people to show up for things and they're not showing up for things because of these Gemini energies, and that can cause a little bit of a challenge for you. But those energies will pass, and then they'll move into something that's easier for you. So it will be short-lived, but those kind of things are likely to happen. Okay. If you have to make any set plans in the second half of May or for the second half of May, just know that those set plans are probably going to change. Already I'm seeing this. I had to make set plans for something for my husband's family. My husband's a Scorpio, for the second half of May, and already those plans have changed several times. So it's not a bad thing to travel or to try to do something during Mercury retrograde. Often things can work out in wonderful ways, but you have to be very flexible, and you have to know that things that you set are probably going to be different than how you intended them to be in one way or many ways. And if you can accept that and know that moving into it, then it can free you from extra stress. And that's one way to make lemonade at this time. So if you can kind of have a casual, flexible relationship with the plans that are being made in the second half of May and in June, then it's going to be much easier for you. Now, I want to talk about a Scorpio-specific set of strategies, and it all has to do with understanding what the energetic pattern of Scorpio is. Scorpio is a fixed sign, so it spirals inward and it moves down. Okay, so it spirals in and down. And as such, people who know Scorpio energy well, either because they are Scorpio or they have Scorpio placements or they know a Scorpio, there is this abyss that Scorpio pulls from that is very deep, and that's for better or worse. Sometimes you can get stuck emotionally in that abyss and be trapped and not be able to get out, but sometimes your creativity can go into these depths and pull out amazing things. So, it goes either way. It's positive and it can be challenging. But to counteract some of the inertia that can be created by an inward and downward spiral, doing things that make you be upside down. Now, I'm not a doctor. You have to make sure that you don't have any body situations where this is not going to be advisable. You have to assess that for yourself, but just kind of understanding the energy. So like a rebounder, if you have a hiatal hernia, or if you have something with your joints or your neck or your back, you might not be able to do that. But there are many Scorpios for whom just having a rebounder and jumping on it, in between your tasks, especially if you're sitting, you will find, and this is true for anybody, but because of this downward and inward energy, the idea is to do things that spring you up. Okay, so springing up on a rebounder, handstands, even inversions in yoga. There's this, my husband has this machine thing that puts him upside down and stretches everything out, So again, it's like this, things are compacting and going down, and you want to try to stretch. Even one of those stretchers where you kind of hold on here like this, and then it pulls your body down because your feet are off the ground, and it just kind of stretches everything that way. That's the kind of strategy that you want to be thinking about long term, or what are the ways to pull that compacted energy and stretch it out and stretch it up here. Okay. Another strategy for Scorpios to assist now and always is just something simple of putting one hand on your occiput, which is the base of your skull, and one hand on your forehead. There is science around this. This isn't random, but you can pull yourself back into your critical thinking, away from emotion or trauma, by holding your head in this manner for sometimes a few minutes, up to 5 minutes or more. And you just kind of think about it. If you're trying to think of something or you're distracted, you go like this, right? And that's partly because you're getting back access to, to this part, to your prefrontal cortex, and you're pulling yourself up this way, right? So that's the energy we're trying to do for Scorpio, is that you get into the emotion and things kind of go down, and then you want to get back up, however you got to do that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about understanding eclipse cycles, this particular eclipse cycle, and then we'll get into what areas of life are going to be aspected specifically for you as a Scorpio. The reason why I focus so much on eclipses during eclipse time is because they bring radical change, crazy trajectory shifts where you're going in one direction, then all of a sudden, almost overnight, you're heading in a completely different direction. Dramatic endings, exciting new beginnings, clearing up of karma in a major way where you feel like, wow, something has occurred and now certain patterns are just behind you, and brand new ways of being open up. It's a very exciting time. It can also be a very stressful time, and some of the changes that come are not welcome. Some of the changes that come are things that you've been trying to manifest for sometimes your whole life. And so it's just a very, very powerful time of extreme energies. The principle in physics that talks about matter never being created nor destroyed, that it simply changes form, is very evident at eclipse time. And we can see it happening in some common things, like for instance, a grandparent passes away and a grandchild is born, or something notable goes on like that type of thing. Somebody retires, but then they start their post-retirement new project, and it's like the energy of what is removed doesn't leave, it just changes into this other form in this brilliant new beginning. And so you will either be a person who is having that happen in this, especially May-June time frame, or you'll be a person who's watching people around you have crazy things going on, and in some cases holding space for them, because it can be, even positive changes can be pretty stressful or a lot to take in as you're going through a major transition. And a lot of times, if you're not the person going through that change, you're holding space for the other person, meaning you're there for them, you're holding their hand through it, or you're assisting them in some way. You can usually tell if you're going to be the person who's going through the changes or the person holding the space by the degree to which the sign and degree of the eclipse hits your personal planets. But since we have so many personal planets, we can't do that justice in general readings, but we can talk about some of that, which I tend to do, in the horoscopes. But some people go through both of it, where they're holding space for other people who are going through a lot, and they themselves are going through a lot of change. Okay, so those are some must knows. Now, just to give you a little perspective about this particular eclipse cycle, the Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle. The last time we had this eclipse cycle was March 2011 through August 2012. And now it started again on May 2020 through January 2022. So it doesn't mean that everything that happened between March 2011 and August 2012 will occur again. It means that the things that occurred in that time that were related to the signs or houses that were accented for you are going to be themes that come up again. If something bad happened then, it doesn't mean something bad will happen now. It's just the areas of life that are activated, which of course I'm talking more about in, this May and June report to tell you what areas of life will be active for you from the perspective of your sun or rising or whatever you're watching for. But in general, you can think back to that time and then notice what similar themes started to come up again, around May of 2020 that have been going on. Now, the other must know about eclipses is it's like an eclipse cycle has several periods of time where there is the eclipse season, where everything gets heated up and right in the forefront, and then it kind of fades into the backdrop. And then the eclipse season happens again every 6 months. This goes on. And then it heats up, and then it kind of fades in the backdrop. So you'll also have noticed that whatever themes have come up for you, we had things that came up May, June, July of 2020. It's kind of like a pot boiling. The eclipses in the astrological perspective are not like they are in the astronomical perspective. From the astronomical perspective, they happen at that time and they're done. From the astrological perspective, there's this cycle that's working in the backdrop, and it's working on areas of your life, and it's active, and then it fades in the backdrop and it's active. Okay, so this is how I like to see this, is that in May of last year of 2020, we had the heat go up. And then in June and July, it was like a rapid boil. And then you took the heat off, and then it kind of like faded out into the backdrop. And then in November and December of 2020, the heat was on again. But then, in January and then into February, March, April, we're like kind of down where the heat is off. Now, towards the end of April, the heat started coming on again of this 2021, and then May and June, we're at a full boil again with the eclipses. Then into July, it sort of starts to fade back down with the heat taken off into the backdrop. And then towards the end of the year, we'll have our final Gemini Sagittarius heat up and then fade out into January 2022 rather. And it will be done, and we'll be on to the next cycle. Okay, so in general, anything involving cars, transportation, including, guarding yourself while you're driving. You have to be extra careful during Gemini and Sagittarius eclipse cycles, because it tends to highlight transportation. And so that can bring, accidents or things with cars or vehicles or walking or your mobility. You don't have to be afraid. It's just to become more aware. So anything having to do with how we share information and how we take in information and how we share it. Education, we can see since last year, we thought that it was COVID that did this, right? But it was really a part of an astrological cycle that was bringing the topic of education and how we are getting educated into the forefront. So now we have new breakthroughs and new storylines with how we're getting educated, kids and adults. Also, how we're commuting or not commuting to work. So you can see as of, the spring of 2020, the fall for those of you down under, and now in the spring of 2021, in the fall for those of you down under, where we're back in this, okay, what are we going to do with the kids in school? Who's going to wind up staying home? What are we doing with work? People are working from home. All of this is very much related to this eclipse cycle. It's more related to this eclipse cycle than it is COVID. COVID is part of the storyline, but COVID is also astrological. And if you want more information about that, search for Annie Botticelli coronavirus and watch my very in-depth video talking about how astrological cycles are really at the source of the things that we think are related to COVID. COVID is part of the astrology, not the cause of everything that's going on. So in any case, we will see things involving international topics. Immigration has been a very hot topic since last year, especially. And we're seeing the storylines of that unfold. Anything having to do with relationships with different countries and our international business. All of that is very much related to the eclipse cycle of the Sagittarius Gemini. So all signs will be seeing those storylines heating up into the forefront. Something else that is a major must know about eclipse time and eclipses in general is that the eclipse cycle matches the North and South node transit. So for those of you who know about North and South nodes, maybe you didn't know that there was a direct relationship between the eclipse cycle and the North and South nodes. They're both running along the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is this is a very important area of focus in astrology, because this has to do with your karma and your dharma. So the difficult patterns that you brought in, whether it was through your own soul's, behaviors and journey, or whether it was through ancestral things that have gone on in your particular DNA, or whether it's the human consciousness that's undergoing evolution, all of those karmic pieces are represented in the South Node energies. And then the North Node energies speak to our highest expression this lifetime, our highest evolution, our dharma, what we came here to do. So eclipse time always is very rich with opportunities to clear karma, clear old patterns, clear programming that's not working, and set up new wiring, solidify the trace of a suggestion that's sitting there waiting to be actualized in the form of our highest destiny, taking steps into making those pathways be solid and more of your norm. So it's very much a time where you have opportunities to step into your highest expression in major ways and let go of major old patterns and become revitalized and have your life just opened up in ways that you've only dreamed of. So it's a very exciting time. I mean, what is there in the mind of the seeker that could be more important than stepping into your highest destiny and your highest expression this lifetime, right? And so the eclipses bring us on there, fate points, fate meetings, fate, endings, divine, destined, or fated endings, fated beginnings, things that have that sense of like, wow, this is really fated here. This is really destined. You'll feel that the energy of synchronicity moving you in these magical, ways that you can't, you have to acknowledge that, wow, obviously there's something else at work here. It's a very magical time, and it's a very intense time, and your nervous system will be under duress, and you'll probably need more sleep, but it may be harder to sleep, and you might need more of your nervous system support and your adrenal support, and those are ways that you can really maximize this time, because the better rested you are and the more your body has the nutrition that it needs, the easier it is for you to manage what's going on. Sometimes someone will say, well, what do these supplements and these things you talk about have to do with astrology? And in my mind, they have everything to do with astrology, because if you're trying to have the best possible experience, and you know that there are intense times coming, how you experience those intense times is going to be affected tremendously by the state of your adrenals and the state of the rest of your whole nervous system and your other systems. So if they are working well and well supported, then as the stresses come, it's easier for you to step into your superhero self and have an easier experience of the challenges that come. And the challenges, like I said, could be super positive, but still challenges just the same. Like, let's say someone buys their, dream house, and that certainly could happen now. Well, the leaving of the old house, the actual move, the logistics, there is stress involved even in the best of changes. And those are the types of things that are going to be occurring in this May-June timeframe in a very big way. Okay, so now that you have a nice detailed understanding about eclipse cycles, how they flow, some information about the general implications of Gemini and Sagittarius eclipses, let's talk more about the areas of life that will be specifically affected for Scorpios depending on your placements, okay? So if you are an early degree placement of Scorpio, so basically October born into the first couple of days of November, or if you're like 0 to 11 degrees, if you're watching for your Scorpio moon, rising, Venus, Mars, whatever charts you watch for that are Scorpio, then this eclipse is going to be in your money sector. your sustainability, your finances, your individual money pursuits, saving, spending, habits, budget, things like that. And so I have some recommendations. So if you are in that time frame, October born or 0 to 11 degrees, then watch a video that I created called Eclipses for Taurus or Second House. Okay, so you can just search for Eclipses for Taurus, Annie Botticelli Eclipses for Taurus, or go to my homepage and I've got an eclipse playlist. Those are going to be especially for those of you in that time and date, that date frame or degree frame. All Scorpios, I recommend that you watch my Eclipses in Sagittarius videos. You can search for Annie Botticelli Eclipses in Sagittarius, because that is the eclipse that is going to be occurring May 26th at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. It's a full moon lunar eclipse. So you'll see more information about how that is likely to present. And that will be just as relevant for you as a Scorpio, even though it is also relevant for other zodiac signs. Then also watch my Eclipses for Gemini video, because the Gemini eclipse is going to be in June, and I'll talk about where that places for you when we go into the June report next month. But that is, 4 to 6 weeks before the actual eclipse, we're starting to feel that. So you'll start feeling that Gemini eclipse now. And then the last placement is where all of the rest of the Scorpios are going to be experiencing this. So all November born, you're going to have this energy in the first house, but I still do recommend October born in 0 through 11 degrees also watch the eclipses in Aries / the first house video, because since it's such an early degree, even if you're officially having this in the second house, as the early placements will, it's close enough on the line to the first house that there's a good chance you'll get some of those manifestations as well, and they could be at the same time as this money sector. So all Scorpios will see this energy in the first house, and this can have to do with your physical body, your health, your healing. Hopefully the strategies that I gave you can be part of an awakening or aha moments of you getting on track with balancing your energy more. This can also have to do with recognition, people recognizing your work. This can have to do with you getting more clarity about what it is that you want to do next or do in the work that you're already doing. This can spur a health crisis or a health breakthrough. This can also spur anything having to do with like weight loss or, anything with your physical body. It can also be major healing of birth trauma. The way that we come into the world imprints us, and that imprint energy is in this first house. So you might find that some recollections or the topic of healing birth trauma is coming up at this time. And you can see my eclipse, Annie Botticelli Eclipses in Aries video to get even more details. Those videos are very in-depth, and they include all of the things that I could think of ways that I've seen the eclipses manifest over the many years I've been tracking them, talking with clients individually and for myself. If you would like even more information on how you can maximize the starry possibilities, click on the little arrow underneath the video that says more, and that little arrow click will reveal all the notes below the video. Most of the time that I spend working is spent doing free offerings, and you can see what all those are and get the links directly to them in the notes below the video. First thing to do is go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter. Not only will you get my happy scopes, a sneak peek into the highlights of all of the months of 2021. Right now, you can see all of that immediately, but you'll also get a more detailed overview of each month, 1 month early, the sweet and salty dates of the aspects, what you can expect from them, and a general write-up of the month ahead delivered into your inbox 1 month early. You also get a free sign-on bonus called Shine, which is my virtual 28-day coaching program. And this is very, very, very detailed, and it can really help support you in your conscious evolution and breaking out of old patterns. So you get all of that when you sign up at anniehelpsyou.com. You'll see it right on the front page. It'll say, "Hi, friend," and then it'll have space for your name and email address. The next thing to make sure to do is go to my school, lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. It's Luminous Life Multiversity, and I've got free courses there, including one to help you ramp up your abundance called Unleash Your Money Magnet. You can also see my paid courses there, including my crazy comprehensive astrology program called Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. If you'd like to do astrology as part or all of your professional offering, or just become adept enough for your own process or to help other people, you will love, love, love this course, especially if you resonate with my work. And you can see that at loomlife.com and plus the other courses there. Also, to go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. That's my other beautiful website where I and a few amazing up-and-coming bloggers that I have selected to be part of this with me are giving you amazing offerings every month, and a lot of it is astrology kissed. So herbal teas for the signs and the sun's movement, hypnosis, healing frequencies for each sign. You'll love this site. It's called cozybysweetstarlight.com. Then also, don't forget about my books. I write books as well. I've got a book called Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. And this is a beautiful book of prayers and affirmations that you can use over a moon cycle or however you're drawn to use it. Then my very, very in-depth book called Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. And it does exactly that. So it's a very detailed, long, comprehensive book to help you align with the starry rhythms. And another very exciting thing that I want to share this month is it's the month of my boy, Seamus. We call him Seamus Blue Moon. It's his birthday in May, and he is having some offerings that are starting to come out. So you can see some work of his artwork in the link below. In the future, you will see him teaching courses at my school. He's working on a course now. So he's also a rune master, an amazing reader of runes. So you'll start to see more by him coming soon. And so this is his beautiful launch into the public. So you can check out some of his artwork in the link below in the More button. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.